Before the beast awakens, before the blood moon rises, before the ancient curse stirs once more, choose your side, hunter or hunted. Join the hunt. Before we begin, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and commenting below. And stay with us until the very end to witness the full transformation. Only those who endure will uncover the truth, fail, and be forgotten by the forest forever. The awakening begins now. Blood remembers, the forest stirs, and the beast is not alone. This was only the beginning. The town of Grayson Hollow never made the news. Tucked between endless forests and forgotten highways, it lived and died by the seasons, breathing only through the quiet rituals of everyday life. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your name and your secrets too if you weren't careful. 17-year-old Eli Warren never gave much thought to ancient legends or the old warnings stitched into bedtime stories. Life for him was simple: school, weekend football games, part-time shifts at the gas station, and the occasional night ride through the misty backroads. Ordinary, predictable, safe, until the dreams began. They started as fragments, a flash of green under a full moon, the sharp tang of blood on the air, trees towering like cathedral spires. At first, Eli chalked them up to stress, or maybe too much late-night gaming, but soon, the visions deepened, pulling him into a world he didn't recognize yet felt disturbingly at home in. In the dreams, he was not himself. He was something else entirely. Running, always running, barefoot and impossibly fast. He could hear the heartbeat of the rabbit in the bush, smell the fear of a deer yards away, and then the hunger, a gnawing, feral hunger that drove him to chase, to hunt. When he woke, sweat soaked the sheets. His muscles ached like he had sprinted for miles. His fingernails sometimes left gouges in the wooden bed frame, deep enough to make him question his own sanity. At first, Eli kept the dreams to himself. He convinced himself it was nothing. But the changes came anyway. It started subtly. His eyesight sharpened, colors deepened. The night no longer felt oppressive. It sang with 1,000 tiny movements. A bat slicing through the dark sky, the soft scurry of mice under fallen leaves. His hearing followed soon after. Whispers from across crowded hallways became crystal clear, even painfully so. Then came the physical sensations. His joints throbbed without cause. His bones felt like they were expanding, reshaping in ways that defied logic. Once, during gym class, he had caught a football mid-flight without even seeing it coming. Pure reflex. The coach had shouted praise, but Eli could only stare at his own hands, trembling with unfamiliar strength. Fear began to root itself inside him. One evening, after a particularly vivid dream where he tore through the woods on 4 legs, Eli caught his reflection in the mirror. His eyes, just for a moment, gleamed with an unnatural amber glow. Blinking it away, he stumbled back, heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped animal. The next day, he skipped work and drove without thinking to the far end of Grayson Hollow, where the woods grew thick and ancient. He wasn't sure why, only that something was pulling him. That's where he met her, Agnes Morrow. Locals called her Mad Aggie, but most had long forgotten why. She lived in a weather-beaten cabin draped with moss and crowned with twisted chimneys. Few dared to venture there, but Eli's feet moved without permission, carrying him down the path until he stood before her crooked door. She was waiting for him. "You've seen it, haven't you?" she rasped before he could speak. Her eyes, pale, almost milky, pierced through him. I don't know what you're talking about," Eli stammered, suddenly feeling very much like a child lost in a nightmare. Aggie gave a dry, knowing laugh. "They never know at first, but the blood knows. The blood remembers." Eli shook his head, backing away. "I should go." "You can't outrun it, boy," she barked, voice sharp as a whip crack. "The dreams, the hunger, the pain. It's only the beginning." He froze. "You're marked," Aggie said, stepping closer. "Born under the blood sign. It's waking up now, and when the moon goes dark," she trailed off, tilting her head as if listening to something Eli could not hear. "What happens when the moon goes dark?" he whispered, against every instinct screaming at him to run. She smiled then, not kindly but with the sadness of someone who had watched this happen before. "The beast inside you will be born, and nothing will ever be the same." A chill gripped Eli, threading through his veins like ice. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and somewhere deep within the woods, a low, guttural growl rose from the earth itself, the first true warning, the first stirrings of awakening. The days that followed felt like borrowed time. Eli barely slept. When he did, the dreams devoured him, no longer just fragments but full, feverish journeys. He raced through endless forests, leaped over rivers that glistened like veins of silver, under the moonlight, and hunted creatures that screamed at his touch. At school, he became a ghost. His friends' voices blurred into meaningless noise. The smell of their sweat, their fear, their excitement, all of it flooded his senses like a sickening perfume. Even the cafeteria, once familiar and dull, became an unbearable assault of odors: blood, meat, salt, sickness. Eli's hands trembled constantly now. Beneath his skin, he felt the shifting, the tearing and rebuilding of something ancient, something monstrous. His reflection, once a comfort, now mocked him. Shadows clung to the corners of his eyes. His teeth ached, and his canines, they seemed longer, sharper. The town buzzed with excitement about the upcoming lunar eclipse, the first total eclipse in over 100 years. There would be bonfires and midnight gatherings, families spreading blankets across the fields to watch the sky bleed to black. Eli knew better. He had seen it in the dreams, the moon turning crimson, the darkness swallowing the stars, and himself, something no longer human, howling into the void. The night of the eclipse arrived like a funeral. Clouds drifted like bruises across the sky as Eli found himself drawn once again toward the woods. He tried to fight it, locked himself in his room, bolted the windows, stuffed towels under the door. It didn't matter. The pull was inside him now, stronger than any lock or prayer. As the shadow crept across the moon, Eli collapsed to his knees, a scream ripping from his throat. His body convulsed, every bone splintering, rearranging. He clawed at the floorboards, tearing through the wood as his hands twisted into gnarled, clawed paws. His spine arched unnaturally, snapping and stretching. The pain was blinding, a fire that consumed him from the inside out. His jaw cracked, muzzle pushing forward, teeth elongating into cruel daggers. Fur burst from his skin in violent patches, dark and coarse. His ears stretched, sharpening to wicked points. Through the window, the eclipsed moon shone like a bloody eye. Eli stumbled to his feet, or what remained of them, and lunged through the glass, shards slicing through flesh already in flux. He landed heavily outside, trembling, panting, lost in a storm of instinct and terror. He ran through the woods, faster than he had ever moved. Trees blurred past him. His new body responded not to thought, but to hunger. He smelled life all around him. Rabbits, deer, even humans on distant farms, but he forced himself deeper into the heart of the forest, away from anything he could hurt. The transformation wasn't clean. It wasn't beautiful like the old stories or the glossy horror films. It was rage, chaos, the birth of a thing older than memory, older than fear itself. Somewhere deep within the darkness, Eli threw back his massive, snarling head and howled, a long, shuddering cry that split the night in two. The woods answered. Other howls, distant and mournful, rose in reply. He was not alone. As the minutes dragged into hours, Eli's mind began to claw its way back through the haze. He staggered, panting, feeling the enormity of his new form, muscles corded and powerful, claws digging into the dirt, fur bristling with every breath of the wind. When he dared to glance at a pool of water, he recoiled. Not a boy, not even a man. Beast. Somewhere behind him, a twig snapped. Eli whirled, teeth bared. Standing between two gnarled oak trees was Aggie, wrapped in a shawl that billowed like smoke. She regarded him with neither fear nor pity, only grim understanding. "You fought it as long as you could," she said, voice low but steady. "But tonight you are reborn." Eli growled, backing away. He wanted to speak, to demand answers, but the beast's throat could only rumble and snarl. Aggie stepped forward, palm outstretched. "You think it's a curse," she whispered, "but it's not. It's a weapon, a gift, one that was hidden in your blood for generations, waiting for the old signs, the darkened moon, the waking forest to call it forth." Her eyes gleamed. "And now," she said, "the true work begins." Eli snarled again, confusion and fury battling inside him. His muscles trembled, the monstrous form threatening to pull him deeper into madness. The clouds began to drift from the moon, the light brightening. Pain racked him again, this time in reverse, the body trying to knit itself back into human shape. Bones cracked, fur receded, claws dulled into trembling fingers. He collapsed, naked and shivering, at the edge of a clearing. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was Aggie's weathered face leaning closer, whispering, "You are the key, Eli Warren. You are the awakening." And then, blessed unconsciousness. Morning in Grayson Hollow was a timid thing. A thin mist curled around the tree trunks, the sun barely daring to break through the heavy clouds. Birds sang uncertainly, as if unsure whether the night's terrors had truly ended. Eli woke with a gasp. His body ached in places he didn't even know had muscles. Scratches laced his arms and chest. Blood, his own, he hoped, dried in dark rivulets down his sides. Every breath hurt, but worse than the physical pain was the gnawing fear that gripped him once more. Had it really happened? He sat up slowly, wincing as his bones protested and looked around. He was lying at the base of a massive oak tree deep in the woods. No one was in sight, no houses, no roads. Only the endless stretch of green and the faint metallic smell of blood lingering in the morning air. The memories crashed over him. The screams, the tearing, the sprint through the dark, the howling. Eli wrapped his arms around himself, shivering violently. He had become something else, something monstrous. He could not deny it anymore. You survived. The voice came from the trees. He turned, heart hammering, to see Aggie stepping into the clearing, her cane digging into the soil with every step. Her shawl trailed behind her like mist. What is happening to me? Eli rasped, his throat raw. Aggie knelt before him, surprising him with her strength. She placed a hand against his forehead, muttering something he didn't understand. "You are what your blood made you," she said finally. "One of the Hollowborn." He stared at her, confusion clouding his mind. "The what?" "Hollowborn," she repeated. "Descendants of the first Guardians. Long before this town existed, long before men claimed these woods, there were those who could change. Beast and man both. Protectors. Warriors. Weapons forged in blood and moonlight." Eli shook his head, trying to reject it. "No, I'm just some kid. I work at a gas station. I'm not." "You are," Aggie said firmly, gripping his chin and forcing him to meet her pale eyes. "You always were. Your family line buried it, tried to forget, but blood remembers." He pulled away from her, scrambling backward across the dirt. "I don't want this," he whispered. Aggie's gaze softened, just a little. "No one chooses the blood, but you must choose what to do with it." Silence stretched between them. Somewhere deep in the forest, a crow called out, sharp and mournful. "You can learn to control it," Aggie said, rising to her full, bent height. "Or you can let it consume you. The world has forgotten the old ways." "Eli, but something stirs again. Darker things than you walk these woods. If you do not master the beast, it will master you, and many will suffer." Eli stared at his hands, still trembling, still bearing faint traces of claws that should not have been. Master it? How could he master something that had torn his very humanity apart, and yet a part of him? A tiny burning core deep within, understood. Last night, despite the terror, despite the pain, there had been something else. A sense of power, of connection to the world in a way he had never felt before. He had moved through the forest not as a trespasser but as something that belonged. It terrified him, and it exhilarated him. "What do I have to do?" he asked finally, voice barely above a whisper. Aggie smiled, sad, knowing. "First you heal, then you learn. When the time comes, you fight." I stood slowly, swaying on unsteady legs. He could see the path now, faint but real, winding through the trees. Not a path of wood and stone, but one of blood, moonlight, and ancient purpose. He didn't know where it would lead, but he knew he couldn't go back to the life he had before. Not anymore, not ever. The mist parted slightly as he took his first step forward, toward answers, toward the wild, toward the beast inside him. Above the trees, the crescent moon lingered, pale against the dawn sky, watching, waiting. The awakening had only just begun. The blood remembers, the forest stirs, and the beast is not alone. This was only the beginning. If you enjoyed part 1 of this trilogy, make sure to like this video. It really helps us out. You can also click on our Ultimate Werewolf playlist to watch more horror and cryptid stories. The link is in the description below. If you love horror, folklore, and unexplained mysteries, subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of fear seekers. But don't stop there. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Because in the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them. And trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.